Hey guys, my name is Dan and this is Stout Gaming. This week in the MDL, it is week 2 and we are coming up against Dina, who is one of the new coaches this season. She ended up winning her last week, but without any further ado, let's go ahead and look at the matchup. So Dina's got a pretty scary team. I rated her right around 7th in my preseason power rankings, but the one transaction that she's made so far immediately vaults her into that top 4 tier, which is now a top 5 tier in my mind. I view her as one of the 5 best teams in the league, and I think the 5 are pretty interchangeable. So, looking at what she has that I think she's likely to bring, I think the Clefable as the redirector is going to be one of the easier brings on her part, and then the Cinderace and Rotom both are good offensive matchups into what my team has. Now, this Articuno Galar is her new pickup, and I think it does very well against my team because I've got 2 strong Intimidate options, and her team was really soft to Intimidate before that transaction. So I think it has to come to sort of ward off my potential Intimidate spam. Now, with what we might see, these two basically group together the Runerigus and the Escavalier if she wants a Trick Room mode, or the Noivern and Espeon if she wants to say a fast mode. I guess there are worlds in which the Articuno sets the Trick Room as well for the Escavalier and Runerigus doesn't come, but if she is planning on setting Trick Room, I sort of expect both of them to come. I don't really think Riolu, Vulpix, or Lurantis are great this week. Riolu as a support option just doesn't seem as good as Clefable against my team. Vulpix, I don't have weather, so it doesn't really do much. And then Lurantis seems to have a rather poor matchup into Arcanine, Tornadus, etc., even if it does have the potential to, much like Articuno, benefit from the Intimidates on my team. On my side, we've got Tornadus, Primarina, Garchomp, and Luxray as the must-brings, and I'll get into that later when we're looking at the team. And then the Colossal and Diglett don't really seem to have a role this week. I'm not running Primarina or Garchomp sets that are conducive to getting the Colossal to go off, so that's why the Colossal's not really on my radar. Now, the could consider, the Copperajah is a pretty decent answer to her Trick Room modes, and Power Whip off of it can really do a number on the Rotom as well that a lot of my team doesn't hit well. Purloin is just a solid support option. Arcanine as a secondary Intimidate option behind the Luxray this week could be decent. Cofagrigus, Iron Defense, Body Press sets aren't bad, Lefties sets aren't bad, and Imprison sets aren't bad if I do expect Trick Room to come. And then Tangela is just an all-around solid support option, but let's go ahead and look at what I am bringing this week. So first off, the Tornadus. Something to pay attention to here is the 142 stat. That will outspeed a max speed Cinderace at +1 if I'm under Tailwind. So that was a speed calc that I was going for. Heat Wave to have potential spread damage and to hit Escavalier if that comes. Air Slash to pick up a key KO after a Primarina attack. Tailwind and Taunt, just solid utility. So, the Garchomp set is designed to be a max Garchomp set with Swords Dance option. Dragon Claw, Rock Slide, and Iron Head. I didn't want to bring a ground move because she's got 3 ground immunities on her team. It had a lot of potential to backfire, and I am running a Life Orb. So if you look here, the Garchomp is actually at 143 speed, which is 1 more than the Tornadus, which is on purpose, because the Garchomp with Iron Head, if I max it, will pick up the KO on basically every Clefable, and because it will pick up the KO on Clefable, part of my flowchart involves this Primarina starting next to the Tornadus because it specs Primarina. I set Tailwind, Hyper Voice, take out the I don't take out a max Cinderace, but I do a big amount of damage to it and get some decent chip on the Clefable as well. Then a max Airstream from the Cinderace will take down the Primarina. If it goes into the Tornadus, that's a different story, but one that I'm pretty okay with, generally speaking, because it ends up in a fairly similar position, except I've got 1 more turn of max, but less health on the Torn. And then once it goes down, the Garchomp that was on the previous page comes out, and the Max Steel Spike takes out the Clefable, and then the Air Slash on the Torn takes out the Cinderace. And that's sort of my flowchart for the early turns if she leads Clefable, Cinderace. Now, my additional options on this team, the Tangela as a redirector, potentially next to Garchomp in the back, because that Garchomp is going to do a lot of damage, especially if I get a Sword Stance off, and the Rage Powder can help me set up Sword Stance at different times. I am running Regenerator on it because I don't think Sun is ever going to really come up in this matchup, and I could get some value out of the switches. Sleep Powder is pretty solid. Giga Drain to help it against Rotom, although without much special defense investment, it's not going to be great. This survives every max Airstream from Jolly Life Orb Cinderace, and has a favorable role from Jolly Life Orb Cinderace to survive a max Pyro Ball. And then we've got the Luxray, which is super solid this week. The Assault Vest set is going to end up really quite strong against the Articuno. The Articuno will not two-shot this most of the time, even with Freezing Glare and the competitive boost that it could get off of Intimidate, and then Wild Charge should be able to come back and deal a big chunk of damage to it. So it's a pretty nice Luxray set. I could see myself maxing it sometimes, but in general, it does good damage to some of the things my other team doesn't hit very hard. And then the Copperajah in the back as a potential Trick Room deterrent / answer, and then it also comes in and can 1v1 a lot of her team that you wouldn't expect it to 1v1, so it does seem important in this matchup as well. But without any further ado, let's cut ahead and get into the battle. So looking at her team, one of the first things I notice is the Rotom is there, along with the Cinderace, the Articuno, and the Clefable, and Trick Room came in the back, so basically right about what I was expecting. I want to lead the Primarina and the Tornadus and hope the Rotom is not the lead, because if anything but the Rotom is a lead, I feel very confident here. Garchomp in the back seems solid in this position. And then the question is, what do I want with it? The Tangela for some redirection seems like a decent option. It usually does end up being a good option, so that's a consideration. The Luxray could put in some work this set, but I do have to play around the Articuno some, and depending on how she built this team, Luxray's not always in the best position. So I'm going to settle on Copperajah, which Matt is really going to love, but Copperajah, just in case she brings Trick Room, so I have sort of another Trick Room answer, and if she does sort of go off with a Rotom early game, a Rotom lead, the Max Grass Copperajah is an option in the late game for me. So we both lock in fairly late, and I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty tactical affair at this point in time. So the one thing I do not want to see is Clefable Rotom as a lead with what I lead. So I go ahead and get my Tornadus and Prim out into Clefable Rotom, and I'm not happy about this situation, because a Helping Hand Thunderbolt has a chance to KO me. However, in this position, I don't necessarily think she goes for it. She thinks probably that she has a free Nasty Plot, and I know that she's run Nasty Plot Rotom in the past. So, Nasty Plot really doesn't like Dazzling Gleam, because if there's not enough bulk, Dazzling Gleam is just going to be a two-shot into Rotom, even with a Nasty Plot, and I'm going to be able to get up Tailwind next turn, so I might as well go for the Taunt into the Clefable, make sure it can't follow me in the future, and then Nasty Plot's no longer an issue, and I'm going to be pretty happy about this position. Follow Me goes off, I'm going to be able to Tailwind next turn, Taunt comes in, and then I immediately see that the Clefable has a Mental Herb, so I know I'm not going to be clicking Taunt this set, most likely. Nasty Plot goes off, but Prim gets off a Specs Dazzling Gleam from a 252 Modest Prim. Yeah, that really hurts. So here I've got a couple different options. I could continue with what I've basically laid out and go for another Dazzling Gleam after Tailwind, and that's pretty much the only option actually, because Now she doesn't have a way to outspeed me. This Dazzling Gleam, even if it doesn't KO a Max Rotom, puts it into range of everything, and that's what I wanted out of the Primarina lead. So I'm feeling very comfortable in this position, and I believe that Dazzling Gleam plus Tailwind is definitely the play, even if it makes me soft to a later Tailwind from a Articuno in the back. But let's go ahead and see what happens this turn. Follow Me goes off. Tailwind comes out. Dazzling Gleam's going to go first. And I pick up a KO and have a really weak Clefable. So this is a great position for me. The only question is, what am I going to do with this position, and what does she have in the back? So I don't have access to Hyper Voice anymore, because I'm locked in with Specs, and it's not going to be a clean switch if the Cinderace comes out because of Max Airstream, and then my speed advantage doesn't matter anymore. So this Prim is basically fodder at this point. It's done its job and done it really well, but I'm just going to launch another Dazzling Gleam. So seeing Articuno comes out makes me really happy, because I'm just able to launch a Dazzling Gleam with no consequences. And the only question is, what do I want to target here? If I take out the Clefable with an Air Slash, then I get a single target Dazzling Gleam, which is very nice, but I also know that if I hit into Articuno, then it gets the 75% damage of Dazzling Gleam, and the Clefable also goes down. So Articuno protects, which makes this choice irrelevant. It's a double protect. So she's stalling a turn of Tailwind, fair play to her. Air Slash comes out. Obviously, double protect, nothing's going to happen this turn. A turn of Tailwind has been stalled. Now I've got a couple of different options, actually. I can't stop Tailwind from going up if she follows me's. So I sort of just want to maximize my damage output, which seems like the right play here. Like, I could try to taunt into the Articuno and be cute if she doesn't go for the follow me, but that just doesn't sound like the right option. So I will let the follow me go off, and probably a Tailwind, because there's not really a good way for me to stop it here. She takes a while to think about this turn, which, fair play to her. It's a tricky turn. My Air Slash goes off, so I get maximum damage out this turn, which is nice, and a flinch chance. No follow me came out, so a taunt could have been the play there, but I'm okay with this. Prim picks up a second KO. Articuno gets really low, doesn't flinch, but Tailwind comes out, and she's going to be in a bit of a rough spot, because even if she has Cinderace in the back to max it, Garchomp is a really good Cinderace answer. I don't have my Luxray, which would have been nice, but I feel good about this situation because I can just start chipping everything down. Cinderace does get basically a free kill if it wants here, but that's the sort of thing you accept. Max Airstream kills the Prim. I'm expecting it at this point, and with a Tailwind up, I'm always going to be the slow one. My Tailwind doesn't matter anymore. So, we're just going to try to maximize damage and try to get a free switch into the Garchomp, which is going to be our max option. So the Max Cinderace comes out, pretty much expected at this point. I know Primarina's dead here. Like, there's no way that she just targets this into the Tornadus, because one, Tornadus has a chance to live something, and she needs KOs. And two, Primarina getting off another spread move is just the most annoying thing in the world. So Articuno protecting is pretty annoying, and then Max Ooze. I had to figure out what move Cinderace carried. I learned they are all physical type moves, so it is still a physical Cinderace, but this does boost the Articuno special attack, which is a little more frustrating than I thought it would be. Like, now this Articuno is a threat to the Garchomp. So Air Slash coming out into Protect, my Tailwind goes out, and now I've got options. I could just try to stall out Max by sacrificing Copperajah before maxing the Garchomp, or I could send up the Garchomp and just sort of fighter man-to-man. And my thoughts here are that a max Garchomp still eats an attack from a Cinderace and a +1 Articuno, and she can't get it to +2 if I'm faster than it with Tailwind, so she can't consistently get it there. And then a max Wormwind into that Articuno slot always kills it and drops the Cinderace's attack to allow me to have the advantage in the late game. So that's basically what we're going to go with here, is we want to drop the attack of the Cinderace while making sure we pick up the KO on the Articuno, understanding that if she does get the Articuno fast enough to outspeed us if we do set Tailwind, that it's not going to go well for her. So we don't even have to set Tailwind here, we could wait a turn because she has to play around us setting Tailwind, which involves a max Airstream. So I'm okay with this play. It's potentially questionable, but I think it's right, and in the end, that's all that really matters. A max Ooze also doesn't do enough damage into Garchomp to allow +2 Articuno to pick up the KO. So Garchomp is surviving this turn, KOing the Articuno and dropping the Cinderace's attack, which sets me up either for a late game Garchomp play or potentially sets me up for a late game Copperajah play. So the Airstream comes out, I'm going to eat an attack from a +1 Articuno as well, pretty obviously here. And in general, I think I'm in a pretty good position at this point. Yeah, max Wormwind is going to come out. It's going to drop the Cinderace's attack, and then we've got a -1 Cinderace. It's at +1 speed, so I'm never outspeeding it until her Tailwind drops. Up against Garchomp here, and then Tornadus just free launching Air Slashes the rest of this game if I wanted to. So her out here is to KO the Garchomp with a max Knuckle if she has it, or with something else, and try to build momentum from there. So a max Guard seems like it could be the correct option. An attack into the Cinderace also doesn't seem bad, especially if this Cinderace is going to be losing its bonuses sometime soon. So there are actually a couple different options that I could consider here, but I think max Guard, the attack has to come into the Garchomp, and then even if it went into the Torn there, I'd survive with Focus Sash after this Air Slash and still be able to get up a Tailwind, which after her Tailwind peters out will just pretty much lock me up the game at this point with a max Rockfall after I set my own Tailwind. So, pretty clean game 1, and we're going to let this game wrap up, and I will be right back with game 2. So, going into game 2, my game plan is basically exactly the same at this point. I'm going to get Primarina Torn and put Garchomp in the back with something else. Again, I'm hoping to fade the Rotom, especially a max Rotom set, but based on the way game 1 went, I don't think that she's super inclined to bring Rotom again. So I think that it's a pretty safe lead. She might try to lead Cinderace, which is, again, what I've prepped for, or she may try to go Trick Room. So I think both of those options are in my favor. If she does lead Rotom again, we're going to have decisions to make, because now she's aware that I'm Specs, if she knows the calcs for this match. So there are some potential issues. So here, I really think Luxray in the back could be the play this time, because it does hit everything pretty hard, and if she does bring the Rotom, I think the Luxray set, based on what I've seen of the Rotom can't Nasty Plot turn 1, so the Luxray set does do well into the Rotom. So as we get into the game, I see that she does lead Clefable Rotom again, and I've got a choice. So I know that this Rotom knows that Nasty Plot is a bad idea, so it might just Thunderbolt into the Prim or Max Lightning there. So switching to Garchomp was one option. But a switch into Garchomp, if she predicts that, knowing that I have to have Garchomp in the back in this matchup, gets hard punished by a Nasty Plot and then a Max Rotom. So it's sort of a 50-50 call at this point. If I think she's going to Max Lightning into the Prim, I switch out. If I think she's going to Nasty Plot, I stay in and go for the Dazzling Gleam. I think even if she does try to take out the Prim at this point, I have a decent chance against a Max Rotom. I do not have a decent chance against a +2 Max Rotom, so this minimizes my chance of just losing. Okay, so Prim is dead. Prim is 100% dead in this situation. Air Slash comes out into a Clef, does a decent chunk. Thunderbolt comes out, and Prim's dead. So, not ideal. Far from ideal at this point in time. Not like it's completely over, but it's definitely not ideal. So the question here is, what do I want to bring out? The Luxray does have the best matchup into the Rotom, but the Garchomp is able to just kill the Clef, which is important here, because the Clef can't have Babiri because we know it's got a Mental Herb. So Garchomp to kill Clef seems decent, especially if she's going to be relying on late game Cinderace again, because late game Cinderace doesn't want to deal with defense boosted Garchomps. So here we've got a couple of different options. Most of them involve the word Air Slash. But the question is, where do I want to target? And it's going to be the Rotom, because the Clef is dead to a Max Steel Spike, and I've made sure that the Garchomp is 1 point faster than the Tornadus, so I don't have this issue. So I guess I just Air Slash the Rotom and let the Clef die. Now, if Rotom tries to Nasty Plot here, or Maxes here, there could be an issue. But again, Rotom doesn't really want to Max in front of a Garchomp. Because even a Max Hydro Pump into a Garchomp isn't going to do a huge amount of damage. I'm able to fight weather with it if I have Rockfall, which I've revealed. So I feel okay about where I am at this point in time. But follow me's, as expected. Clef gets yeeted, as expected. Okay, so now I'm getting some physical bulk up, and this Rotom Nasty Plotting and then maxing could be an issue, so some damage from Torn here would be really nice into this Rotom. There is a world where this goes very poorly for me, and that's if this Rotom Nasty Plots and then has enough HP that she feels comfortable maxing it. A critical hit, so that's nice for me. Max Rotom has to be on her mind here, and if it's not, I feel very good, but if this Rotom maxes, it could go very poorly for me. So, with the Articuno on the field, though, there are a couple of things to consider. Taunt is a reasonable option here into the Articuno to prevent it from getting up Tailwind or Trick Room, either of which wouldn't be ideal for me in this situation. I don't really want to Wormwind the Rotom, which is where I get most of my damage, because that would boost the Articuno to +2. I don't necessarily... there's a lot that could go wrong here. So it takes me a while to work through this, but in the end, I settle on probably the most straightforward play of absolutely ending the Articuno. It does have a Chardy Berry, which is unfortunate, and then just trying to get an attack into the Rotom here. So I'm able to set up Sand, which will break my own Focus Sash, but it stopped this Articuno from getting up bonus damage off, and here's a pretty interesting situation. So I still think Max Rotom is her best option. And under Tailwind, I'm still going to outspeed a max Rotom, but I've only got one more turn of max left. So I could launch a Dragon Claw, like a max Wormwind into the Rotom, and let the Articuno get all boosted up, which could be bad for me in the late game. Or I could Steel Spike into the Articuno, assuming Cinderace is in the back, and she's shown a unwillingness to max the Rotom so far, and I don't really see why that would change. So yeah, this could go very badly for me, but I do think that it is the right play to Steel Spike to kill the Articuno here, and then let Rotom max if it wants to, because I do think Luxray, even to a +2 Rotom, is okay, not great, but I do need Tornadus to set Tailwind for any late game against Cinderace, because I need the one turn of Tailwind at the end. Steel Spike comes out, takes out the Articuno, and the defense boost is going to be really nice if Cinderace comes out, especially if this Rotom just decides to kill the Tornadus, which it does. So I really hope Cinderace is in the back here, because I've got Luxray, and setting an Intimidate would be really nice for me in this situation, although I can't really expect it. It does put me in a winning position if it comes out, and fortunately for me, it does. So I feel really good in this position, because even if this Cinderace maxes at -1, I've got a +2 defense Garchomp, so this thing's not going to do damage into me. All I have to do is make sure that this Rotom doesn't do damage to Garchomp, and I win. And I've got Tailwind on my side. And Luxray is not the easiest thing in the world to kill, especially with the Cinderace at -1. And it has Assault Vest for the Rotom, which is at +2, so it can do damage. But I will get enough attacks off that I feel good in this situation. So here, if this Rotom maxes, there's some potential for problems, but if the Cinderace maxes, I do win. And we see the Cinderace is the one that's maxing at this point in time. So I think I win. There's the potential for crits always and some chicanery, but this turn should pretty much decide it. Max Ooze comes out. It's going to become a poison type. They'll do some decent damage into the Luxray, which I am completely fine with. Rotom will get buffed up. Again, it's already really strong. And from here, we just sort of want to hit into the Rotom. If Rotom does target Luxray at +3, it will take it out. And that could be an issue for me, because this Rotom has the potential to be faster than the Luxray, but it flinches, which locks me the game, because this Wild Charge will kill it. Rotom goes down. There's nothing the Cinderace can do at this point, because it has to kill the Luxray, because it can't 1v2 targeting into the Garchomp, and the Garchomp's not going to die from a single attack from it. And then just 2 Dragon Claws should do it. So Luxray is the sacrificial lamb here, and then Garchomp will just go to work with Dragon Claw a couple times. But yeah, at this point I've locked up the game, so I'll just take some time to say good games to Dina. It was a really fun set, as a lot of my sets in the MDL are. Welcome to the league. I'm glad you could make it. But as always, my name is Dan. This is Stout Gaming. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your favorite moments from this battle. And I will see you guys in the next few weeks with some more Draft League action. I'll sign off here and let you guys watch how this battle finishes up. Bye.